And now we will start. Dang, I wish I could turn that off. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let it go.
Okay.
It'll stop soon.
And recording. There we go.
Okay, here we go. Lydia, you have a bit of a crowd tonight.
Really awesome.
Look at you.
All right, well, welcome everyone. I am Sweet Pea from King's Books, and we are very excited to host this event for Brief Blast Candles, the new book by Lydia K Valentine. Lydia is a former King's bookseller as well as a friend, so we're very excited to be a part of this. Lydia's book is for sale. I will drop the link in the chat and we can get signed copies to you. We do curbside pickup at King's right now and shipping. So either of those options, you can buy the books and we'll get them signed and even personalized if you want. So a little bit of how this is going to go. We're starting obviously, and then it'll be a conversation between myself, Lydia, and Tina. And so everyone is probably very familiar with Zoom at this point in the pandemic, but make sure to mute your microphone, keep your video on because we'd love to see you. And then, yeah, we'll be doing question and answer. You can put questions in the chat and we will get to them as we can. And yeah, and it's a shared creative space. So we ask that everyone present respect everyone else. And there's a zero policy tolerance for harassment. So we will immediately remove any offenders. So I first met Lydia back at a book conference, in a regional book conference where she was masquerading as a bookseller in order to find out about all the free books. And and about a month or 2 months later, I hired her at King's Books, and she became an honest woman and became a bookseller. And the reason why I say this is it's probably just coincidentally, but I'm about to introduce my co-host, Tina Antonovaros, is joining us in conversation. Tina is a writer, teacher, and bookseller based in Oregon. She was raised below the federal poverty line and is the first person in her family to go to college. Tina completed her college education and began her writing and teaching careers while raising her children. Her memoir, Rough House, was released from OSU Press just a few weeks ago. Rough House is an October 2020 Indie Next Great Read and has now spent 4 weeks on the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association paperback nonfiction bestsellers list. And we are both here, of course, to welcome Lydia. Lydia K Valentine is a playwright and poet, director and dramaturge, editor and educator. Her proudest accomplishment, though, is being a mom to 2 creative and intelligent human beings who are fiercely passionate activists and loyal friends. Through her own writing and the projects to which she contributes under Literary Inc., Lydia seeks to amplify the voices of those who are often stifled, ignored, and marginalized in what has been the accepted narrative of the United States. So I will pass it to Tina.
Thank you, Sweet Pea. Hi, Lydia.
Hi. Sorry, I'm telling my brother something because he can't hear.
How's it going? What are we doing tonight? What's going on? What's the big deal that's going on tonight? I don't remember. Happy book birthday!
Thank you.
I have so much I want to say to you, and you can't not let me say whatever I want to say right now. So you have to understand that I'm just kind of drunk with the pleasure of this moment. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to be here with you tonight. It's an honor.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You, since the day that we became friends, you've always made me feel very brave. And I hope that to be able to return that to you by helping you launch your beautiful book into the world. So
thank you.
So in case you haven't heard, 2020 has a bit of a reputation. And I was thinking about this. Like, how would you describe, like, when I say 2020, you say what?
Shit show? Oh, sorry for my students.
So I thought it was kind of funny. Like, I think my first question for you before we get all serious and literary is like, especially considering the trajectory of our friendship and our writing relationship and everything we write about. Like, what does it say about us that the dream that we would have books come out someday came true for you and I, both so close together, which is a beautiful thing, but during this year?
I think it says that the universe knew we needed a positive boost. And it was like, you know what? I'm going to give him something. So I think it was time. It was time.
Did you ever imagine our books would come out so close together?
No, absolutely not. Because I didn't imagine that my poetry manuscript would come out before my play was staged. So I thought that maybe your book would come out and then, you know, maybe 6 months later or something like that, my play would be staged. Because, you know, we had the reading, wow, was that 2 Januaries ago?
I think so.
But the world closed. And then I was lucky enough that Ben Gorman of Not a Pipe Publishing reached out and asked if I would be willing to be their first poetry collection that the brand published. And I was like, of course.
Smart decision, Ben.
Yes, very smart.
I think you're here, Ben. Thank you for that. That was a wise choice. Okay, so I have a lot of questions I want to ask you about the beautiful and painful and breathing creature that is Brief Black Candles. But first, I thought maybe we can, I'm channeling Banu, and I thought maybe we should enter into this space that we're sharing that exists for a fleeting time, that this family that's in this space right now will be together, celebrating this woman and her work, that maybe you could invite us into that space by reading for us.
Sure.
And I thought that a good choice, again, I'm drunk on power. I thought a good choice would be We Are the Cavalry.
Great. Yep, We Are the Cavalry. All right, I'm going to share my screen because I know that not everybody is an auditory processor, so you can follow along with the words. All right. We are the cavalry. It's the sound, the slick, hard sound, the burrowing scrape of not having, not being, not doing enough that does it. What's next is not an implosion, a swallowing down to muffle itself and me. It's the bulleting crystals of dark, sprinkled screeches that ripple and rip, a sharp, burning burst that finally eats through to find enough. Let's begin.
Thank you. So I've had the great privilege of sort of interacting with some of these poems, not all of them. Some of them were kind of new to me, but with these poems and just your process for some time. And I think as I was kind of looking at the finished package that ended up being Brief Black Candles, I was definitely struck by something I've always known about you, which is like, it just felt like it so embodies who you are, because there's this sense of family and community in the work that that I've seen in your poetry, in your playwriting, and that I see in the way that you've chosen. Right now, I'm just talking mostly about the way you've chosen to package this particular book. Mm-hmm. The pieces that aren't the poems, even like the way you've chosen to put it together. So I'm not just talking about the fabric of your poems, but the entire work. And you know, the cover, the dedication, the quotes you choose before the poetry begins. I'm curious about how these elements, the parts that are not the poems themselves, speak to the work of the book. But first I wondered, would you just tell us about the cover and maybe show the cover? I don't have a copy yet because it wasn't available just yet. Today's your book birthday, so.
Today is my book birthday.
And talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually just got my copy like 2 hours ago in the mail. I was stalking the mailman and online tracking it, but it just got here. Um, so anybody who knows me knows I love illustration, I love comics and things like that. And so I've always wanted to be an artist. Um, so I always encourage my students who I know like to draw, and I have had the privilege of watching Salvatore Sindrich blossom as an artist from when I knew him as an 8th grader at Charles Wright um, till now. He's a grown up, a real grown up, almost 30 grown up, and I knew that I wanted to have a connection to whatever was on the cover. You know, I didn't want it to be something. I've had a lot of friends who have things published and their covers are garbage. Not your cover, but you know. And so I asked my publisher if I could reach out to an artist who I knew, and I did. And Salvatore, he showed me his original sketches, and I'll put them up on my website soon. But he showed me his original sketches and just thought, you know, we talked a lot back and forth about what the ideas were. I told him what the title would be and sent him the manuscript. And I loved everything through all of the stages. So it's a woman, a Black woman, and her arms are out. And it really is reminiscent to the Scales of Justice to me, but she has black candles on her with wax dripping down. And she has a blindfold on, and that's also like blind justice. And the really funny thing, though, is that I noticed early on that the woman that he drew kind of reminded me of my mom. And my mom's back there, too. She was very beautiful. And I didn't say anything to anybody. And when I showed it to my sisters, I said, guys, who do you think that looks like? And they both thought it looked like our mom, too. And then that's when I told Salvatore. And so it's extra special because Salvatore, who is like a part of our family, we all love him. He was able to put his art on my book, and it reminds us of our mom, who isn't with us anymore. So.
And when you say you met him when he was in 8th grade, you were his teacher, right?
I was his teacher in creative writing. I probably still have some of his stories, so I can blackmail him with them.
But what a beautiful circle.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. Okay, so speaking of what's in the book that isn't poems, I know something I struggle with a lot.
One more thing to say about Salvatore, though.
What's that?
So, I have one more thing to say about Salvatore.
Okay.
When his family was touring the school, his dad wasn't too sure he wanted them to go to Charles Wright. And then they saw my classroom, and I had Steelers stuff all over the wall. And his dad is from Steeler country, too. And his dad was like, oh, yeah, he can go to this school now. So that was pretty awesome. We had a connection before we even met.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for that. Okay, so I told you this conversation would go so fast. We're never going to get through all the badgering I want to do to you. Okay, so I know something that I struggle with as a writer. This is what I was starting to say, particularly a writer of nonfiction, is like who gets to speak and who does not. Mm-hmm. And like whose voice is going to be heard. And I see you navigating that with Brief Black Candles in the poetry itself, but also at the very beginning, you have a quote from Shakespeare, you have a quote from James Baldwin, but then you have this long running list of quotes. And I wonder if you will kind of tell the audience a little bit about what that list is, how you chose who gets to be there, you know, just sort of, that is a made thing as well. That is something that you made, and I'm curious about it.
So the voices are their quotes, and they are the last words of a lot of brown and Black people who lost their lives to police violence. And there was actually a reporter who had made a visual representation of the last words, starting with I think it was Tamir Rice, and I was always really struck by that. And also the fact that For some of the people, we don't know what their last words were, and their families don't know what their last words were. Like Tamir writes, we don't know, his mother has to wonder about that for the rest of her life. And Brief Black Candles, the poem is very much about lives being taken too soon and unjustly. And the Shakespeare quote has to do with when in the Scottish play, when he's talking about what life is, and he says it's sound and fury signifying nothing. And so I think these voices signify everything. And it really, a lot of my poetry stems from that, from trying to respond to the national grief, the collective Black mourning that is going on in the world. And writing is something I do when I don't know what to do. So,
and you, if I remember right from the draft that I saw, you put that these voices signify everything at the end, right?
Yeah, right at the end after the list that I have.
That's beautiful. So since we're talking about those voices that are lost to us, maybe we should go into Brief Black Candles, because it is really, that's the heart of that piece. Will you read the title poem for us?
Absolutely. All right, let me share my screen again. Here we go. Brief Black Candles. Their still hearts radiate furious sound and screaming fury, signifying everything. Yet silence skims the surface of their hollow homes, their cocoons of emptiness. Vestigial tendrils of pain reach, growing and pulling on those of us left behind, yesterday and today, and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
Thank you, Lydia. Sweet Pea, did you have a question before I keep going? I didn't know if I saw your microphone go off.
You can keep going. I'll jump in.
Sorry.
I have questions, but you're good.
I don't want to be like I'll totally take over. So, okay, let's talk a little bit. I mentioned Banu earlier. I want to talk about the beautiful blurb she wrote for this book. It's so amazing. So I'm not going to read her whole blurb, but she wrote that Brief Black Candles, quote, attends with passionate velocity to questions of survivability, remembrance, and the creative art of living a fully human life. And for me, I kind of thought a poem that embodies this praise is In the Land of Now. It's like carefully structured, and it certainly attends to like the passion to survivability and remembrance. So I thought maybe, can you read it, but also talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I keep seeing people and want to be like, oh my gosh. Sorry. I'll try not to do that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again.
And you guys don't forget to drop questions in the chat, because if we have a lot, we'll stop chatting early and let you guys ask your questions.
Yeah, for sure. In the Land of Now is originated in the form of my favorite form of poetry, which is a pantoum. I love pantoums. You'll see another one later on. But when I sent the manuscript off to Ben and we were in the last days of editing it, and he paginated it, the lines didn't work. They were running off and it didn't look right on the page, which poetry is a very visual as well as an auditory medium. And so he said, can you cut the lines or something like that? And as any writer can probably understand, my heart kind of stopped a little bit and was like, can you cut the lines? I'm like, can you like cut your hand off?
Yeah.
Like, no. And because it's in a very specific form, I was really stressing out and trying to think, do I need to cut this from the collection? But then I just took it a little bit, instead of having it exactly in the form It just kind of made each stanza a little short paragraph of its own. So it's still, the rhythm of it is, of a pantoum is still there. It just doesn't look exactly the same on the page. And I wrote this poem in response to 4 years ago when the current administration first came into their regime. Lots of people were stressed out and, you know, freaking out. And a lot of us had already been in that state for a lot of different reasons living in this country. So this has a lot to do with the sense of the world at that time. In the land of now, feral beasts, all gnashing teeth and relentless hooves, haunt us. Down paths of silver ruin or festering hope are the only escapes. What unholy commandment compels these creatures with bellies full of flickering blue-red corruption? Paths of silver ruin or festering hope are the only escapes in this labyrinth of gentrified larceny. We have no key to any gate. With bellies full of flickering blue-red corruption, the beasts have free rein to pursue, plunder, and punish. In this labyrinth of gentrified larceny, we have no key to any gate. Safe passages and sanctuaries are hidden in shadows of neutrality. The beasts have free rein to pursue, plunder, and punish. The apathetic, the hateful, and the afraid have sanctified these actions. Safe passages and sanctuaries are hidden. In shadows of neutrality, silent allies are as dangerous as faulty brakes or rotted floorboards. The apathetic, the hateful, the afraid have sanctified these actions. A toxic hive mind sprouts from terminal patriarchy. Silent allies are as dangerous as faulty brakes or rotted floorboards. What unholy commandment compels these creatures? A toxic hive mind sprouts from terminal patriarchy. Feral beasts, all gnashing teeth and relentless hooves, hunt us down.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see. My next question, are you ready?
Yes, I think so.
What do you like to do on a date? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I was trying to get long walks on the beach out of you. Okay, so I was thinking about, it's funny that last piece you read, you talk about silent allies. And like, I remember that time when you wrote that, like, I remember that period when you wrote that poem, and it was near the beginning of our friendship.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, as I was preparing for tonight, I was thinking of an Audre Lorde quote where she says, I find I'm constantly being encouraged to pluck out some one aspect of myself and present this as the meaningful whole, eclipsing or denying other parts of self. And I know this happens to you. Like I've stood there and watched this happen to you. And one thing I love so much about this collection is the outright refusal to do that. Like seriously, you represent so many facets of like you don't pluck one aspect of yourself out in this collection. Like you've just read a couple pieces that are probably more closely tied to your role as an activist, but there are pieces in here where you're a daughter, where you're a mother, where you're a lover, you know, like it's multifaceted, and I love that. So I thought maybe we could move into some of the pieces about your family, if that's okay.
Sure.
Those are some of my favorites too. Well, they're all my favorites. Although I do want to say, let me backtrack and say, you just read that pantoum. And I was thinking, if there's two things I know about Lydia, it's that she loves a pantoum and she loves the Oxford comma. Yes. And do not cross her on either of those things.
It's the right way to go. I mean,
and meanwhile, I'm always like, I don't know, where does the comma go? And you're always like correcting my commas. Okay, so let's move into some family poems, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I've always loved Pole of Home. It makes me tear up a little bit. it's definitely taken on a new sort of nostalgia for me during the pandemic, because, you know, it speaks of togetherness and the kind of togetherness I knew from my upbringing, where we were often cramming family members into the house who maybe weren't immediate family members, but, or we were the people being crammed into somebody else's house. And that we just were always, there was a lot of people and we were in each other's hair, but also like we felt annoyed, but then when they're gone, you miss them. And Pull of Home has always made me think of that feeling that I miss from my own childhood. And then of course, now we're in this place where we can't really gather the way we would like to. So, so maybe will you read Pull of Home and talk a little bit about just like the theme of family? You can talk about this piece, but also if you want to talk about it as a broader theme in the book.
Yeah. All right. I'll read it first. And then if I forget, tell me to start.
You know, I will.
Okay. The Pull of Home. When I think of the home of my youth, it is always full, close to bursting. Aunt and uncles, raised like older siblings, their friends who came and went or sometimes stayed, the dogs, perched sentinels in the yard, laughter, fussing and fighting, fever pitch, not enough room, no space to have his mind to make out the quiet noise of my thoughts. The ones that came before us left. The corners filled with stories, jokes, and bickering became mute. The walls seemed to pull in even closer as the space between them became a suffocating emptiness. But when everyone is all there, together again, drawn back by the magnet of family, meaning returns to the red shingled house and those who remain inside. So I wrote that one at Breadloaf, which is a cool English nerd camp, is what I call it, in the Green Mountains of Vermont. And it was the first piece that was a kind of about my whole family, and then thinking about growing up with all of us in the house. My parents, there are 6 of us, and my parents raised my aunt and uncles because my mom was the oldest. She was 25 when her mother died of cancer. And so she raised my aunt and uncles, and they were like older siblings to us. And family is just really important to me. I think that my father told my mom, you know, there was no way, even though they were a very young couple, you know, there was no way that he was going to let her siblings have to be kind of parceled out, that they would all stay together and that they would, raise them. And so we were always raised to remember how important family was. And family is not only the people you are born to, but also your found family. My dad would always say, you're a Roberts. Remember, you're a Roberts. And he didn't just say it to us, like our closest friends growing up. He would say, like, even my best friend Naima, who's on this call now, we met in college and we've been best friends since. And he would say, you're a Roberts, because that meant, you were family, and that family is the beginning and the end. And, that piece is really sad to me because that house is gone. Our parents are gone. My aunt is gone. And, we're all, the girls were all the way out here in Washington, and my younger brothers are still in Pennsylvania. And we're not all together usually, but, we're still very connected. My sisters and I, we have just like everybody in the world, we have a sister text that goes on. We say stupid stuff to each other all day long, every day, argue about books, all of those things. But it's interesting when you get to a certain place and you are the elder, and you've lost your elders. And I think until you get to that point, you don't realize that for the elders who were your elders, that how much they probably missed their people, the adults, their family members. And sometimes I want to, call my mom and say, can you help me figure this thing out? And even though I can't, there are found family members. And some of them are on call today. Mama Sally, I see you out there. And so, and I think that also shades of people who you've lost, you find them in other people too. So, and my mom and my dad would have got a kick out of you. So, Tina.
You're gonna make me cry every time you talk about them. It makes me want to cry. By the way, my mom's behind me too. So
Yes, I know. That's
our
so
mom
awesome.
has raised us right.
Yeah.
So okay, I think I'm afraid we're gonna run out of time because you have a lot of questions. So quickly, I want to hit 2 more family poems if that's okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, and I know which 2 they are, I'm sure.
Okay. So for me this week, last 2 weeks, I've been thinking a whole lot about, you know, how we manage to keep getting up and moving forward. And it's a big theme in my work, and it's a big theme in your work, just like the plodding perseverance that has been required of us for different reasons in our lives. And that's a theme in both of our families too, I think. So I think it's definitely something that brought us together as friends.
Mm-hmm.
And writers. So that sort of plodding perseverance, you know, there's a beauty in that. There's also a sense of hope, you know, that you just keep getting up and taking a few more steps no matter what. And that theme emerges throughout the collection. But one of my favorite pieces about perseverance is about sweet Kaya, whose face I see, and who your daughter never fails to, like, just seeing her smile makes my troubles feel a little lighter, you know, always. She's just an amazing little person that you made there. So will you read Kaya, age 9, surfing?
Yes, I will be happy.
Tina gets all the hits tonight, like all my favorites.
What's funny is, Tina, I don't know if I told you this, but I was reading some of my poetry at Goddard with my advisory, and one of the other students said, you know, do you have any happy poems? And I was like, oh, wow, do you?
Okay, who was that? Do I need to?
I can't remember her name because she was 2 G's above us.
That's okay, we can talk about it later.
But I pulled up, I was like, oh, I have this one about Kaya. And I was like, good save, because I think at that time it probably was my only happy. All right. Kaya, age 9, surfing. And this is based on literally when Kaya was 9, we were at Westport, and she took a surfing lesson and was fearless. All right, Kaya, age 9, surfing. Trying again, you get back up on the board, laughing as the wave settles to silence. You get back up on the board, never giving up. As the wave settles to silence, your fearlessness steals my breath. You never give up. Like numbered yesterdays and tomorrows, your fearlessness steals my breath as you move to a place I cannot go. Like numbered yesterdays and tomorrows, I watch from a distance as you move to a place I cannot go. You, my daughter, fly free. I watch from a distance, laughing along as you, my daughter, fly free and try again. And that's a pantoum as well, hence the repetition.
Don't I know it? Kaya, somebody made that for you. Somebody loves you that much. Isn't that amazing? Okay, I don't want to leave Matthew out, and I know we've only got a few more minutes before I should let Sweet Pea ask questions. So let's read a poem about your son. And I like Bearing Witness as our last poem because it kind of has a lovely message to bring us home. So do you want to talk about it and read it, or read it and talk about it?
Yeah, so Bearing Witness, I wrote this at Goddard. And I think maybe our last term, I can't remember what the prompt was, but I really just wanted to celebrate this kiddo because he is, the first line is, you were a promise of fierce beingness, and he has been. Like, this is so true. Between Kaya and Matt, I had a miscarriage, and it was pretty traumatizing and very, very difficult. And when I got pregnant with Matt, there were complications, and the doctors didn't know if the pregnancy would go full term. And so every day, and this was in my first year at Charles Wright, every morning before school, I'd go to work, I'd go to the hospital, get my blood drawn, drive to school, and then I'd have to call and get the numbers to see if the human growth numbers were going up, meaning that he was still growing, or if they were going down, meaning that I was losing him. So almost every day for the whole first trimester was spent that way. I didn't know if he would live or not. So, bearing witness. You were a promise of fierce beingness, even as a small, silent sentinel waiting, an island of resolve in an unreliable sea. Circumstance never dictated your certainty, but I didn't know if you would stay or drown and wash away in clotted currents. Fear, like other muscles, optimism, triceps, requires attention and use to increase in strength. After one loss, it had overpowered the organic authority of my heart and brain. Yet you held truth before you bore flesh, wisdom before teeth, knowledge before bones and breath. You, my son, a gospel stronger than any sea, any fear, you are.
Thank you, Lydia. Okay, so Sweet Pea, I have a few questions that were sent in advance, but do we want to hit the question? Is Matt here? I don't see Matt, but if you are Matt, I'm shouting out to you as well. There's too many people. I can't see you. So somebody loves you that much too.
He told me he'd be here if he didn't have something else to do. So.
Well, he is what? That's pretty age appropriate.
Well, you know.
Sorry, Sweet Pea.
Yeah, that's, oh, let's see. Okay, it looks like my internet is being funny. Anyway, yeah, we'll jump into the questions from the chat. Tandy asks, Lydia, I'm curious what your daily writing practice is like, and if you have regular spiritual practices.
Oh, Tandy, I wish I had a regular writing practice. I should. I'm very, very bad about it, but I've been trying to like try to have weekly writing sessions with my sister or my best friend Naima. Carrie Fisher, who's on this and who I cannot thank enough. He lives in Minnesota. We met at PLU's writing program, and she and I for a long time would meet every week over the phone before we did Zoom and write together. And we've been trying to get that practice back again. But a lot of what I do daily, though, is if I hear a word or a phrase that I really like, I'm like, oh, that's a poem, or I see an image, I'll put it in my phone so that when I do have time to write, I'll sit down and do that. And a regular spiritual practice, that's a great question. I feel I have lost prayer in a way. I used to have a very regular prayer practice, like every evening. And I am disconnected from it right now. Yeah. And just saying, like, I hadn't really realized that until I just answered that question. So thank you for asking that. And that's something to explore at some point. Yeah.
And here's a kind of related question. Sal asked, do you have a particular process for unpacking your experiences and feelings into imagery?
I love imagery. I love a good metaphor, simile. Do I have a good practice? No, I don't. I think about the words more than anything else. I love the way words sound and when they come together. I love plays on words, like in The Land of Now, in the first line, it says haunt. And that poem came from the question, what haunts you, actually? So the first line has about how the feral beasts haunt me, but then at the end it says they hunt us. And so I love the turn on language, which is part of why I love pantoums, because it gives a good opportunity to play on different meanings of a word or different forms of a word. Yeah. But I do try to paint pictures with my words. Like I see, when I hear things, I'm seeing them in my mind. That's how my brain works. And so I try to write things that people can, and I always tell my students, paint the picture. Yeah.
Jillian May asks, were there surprising things you noticed when you wrote some of your poetry, from form, theme, self-awareness, etc.?
The most surprising thing actually has been like when Tina tells me, oh, I really like this poem. A couple of other people who read the manuscript, they would tell me they really like a certain poem, and I'm like, why? Like that's not my favorite poem. That's not the best poem, like the best. And it's just so funny how different things stick to other people, and what they mean to other people. Like I have very specific things in mind when I'm writing, and it could be very different from how they are perceived. But no, in terms of themes, being Black, being a mom, being a woman, being queer, being autistic. That's the next thing that I really want to focus on in my writing is what it's like being an autistic woman, autistic Black woman. But with poetry, and even with playwriting, you can have this really firm idea of what you want to write about, and you might end up with something totally different.
That leads into my next question, which is how do poetry and playwriting manifest differently? Like, do they have different functions for you as far as your writing and what they mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started at Goddard, where I got my master's, and my discipline was playwriting, dramatic writing. My advisor, Dara Cloud, who is a poet and a playwright, my first draft that I sent to her, like the first scene of my play, and she was like, "Yeah, this isn't a play. This isn't a play yet." And she said, "You're trying to write this like fiction, and plays are not fiction. You need to write it more like poetry." And that really stuck with me. And so it's so interesting to me how similar poetry and plays are, because there's so much that is implied that you're not just directly stating when you are writing a play and when you're writing poetry. And you're thinking about what are the words that are being said, but what is this character thinking? And anytime that I kind of went off track with my play, it was because I was not writing it like poetry. And there's a piece of advice that professors and writers would always give to me that I absolutely hate when it comes to poetry. And that's let the poem be what the poem wants to be or what it needs to be. And I hate that direction with poetry, because I'm like, no, I have something I want to say and I want it to say that. But when I kept that in mind with writing my play, that made me listen to the characters and kind of step away from like this trajectory that I thought I was going down. My play ended up, there was another professor, Keenan Norris, who read the first scene or the first act of my play. And he said, why do you start the play here when the play is about this character? And until he said that, I hadn't really thought about the fact that I thought the play was about somebody totally different. And the play actually was about the character that he had picked up on. So in a lot of ways, you kind of have to get out of your own way when you're writing poetry and when you're doing playwriting.
Just a reminder, everyone can put questions in chat and we will answer them. Celia asks, the election coverage has made me very aware that Pennsylvania has distinct cultures that I know nothing about. What parts of Pennsylvania inform your work, and what do you carry with you?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. Yeah. So I'm from Western Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh. From a steel city called Aliquippa, which is the name of my play, actually. And I'm very much an Aliquippa girl. I'm equipped for life. The cover, the color scheme on the cover of my book is red and black, and that represents Aliquippa. My sisters and I talked about it's very specific. And I live out west and I love living out here, but it is very, very different. Um, I feel like people here are nice, but they're not necessarily kind. And where I come from, people are very direct and, you know, might say something that would break you down, but they don't mean it in like a way to break you down. They're just being honest with you. And that honesty, I think, comes through. What did you say? Yeah. As my sister just said, there's kindness in that, and that's true. Clarity is kindness. Um, and I think that comes through in my writing, that directness, and no hold. Like I can't hold part of myself back. I am who I am, 100%. Sometimes that's annoying to me and my family, I'm sure. But that's just who I am, and I think people can either roll with that or, you know, they can't, and that's cool, you know. So I think that my writing is just very honest. And also, a lot of times people ask writers, "Oh, what part of you is in that?" And for example, in my play, somebody might say, "Which character is the most like you?" And it's so crazy because every single character has part of me in that person.
So we have two related questions. One is from Kaya. Do you have a favorite line in the collection? If not, do you have one that feels like it adequately gets to the question? And then Deanna asks, through the writing of this book, did you discover or rediscover a word that stands out to you or that you particularly like?
Wow, really great questions. I noticed in editing the book that ashes came up a lot. I used ashes a lot. And so I guess I like that. But I mean, ashes are so fragile, right? But they're also the pieces of everything that they used to make up. A favorite line, that is a great question. And it's totally something I would ask Kaya. You're so much kid. Um, there is a line. Um, and it is blah, 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 blah. Sorry. I can't. I really should know the name of this poem, and I can't think of the name of it right this second because I'm getting stressed out. Um, I can't think of it. I will think of it and come back. So ask me something else. I can't remember exactly. So, but yeah, ask me something else, and I will try to find it.
Sounds good. I wrote down a line from Speaking in Tongues. While you watch from the banks of privilege, we wade in water as thick and ropey as clotted dreams.
Oh yeah.
That was one that I wrote down that hit me. So sorry, I got it off of
on the poem.
Oh yeah.
I probably should read something else, but anyway, this is what comes to mind. Do you think of her as you wash the smell of me from your hands? And that to me is like mic drop.
Yeah. Carrie asks, what is giving you hope right now with writing and or during 2020?
My family, my friends. The fact that I have enough people in my life that are from different walks of life that, like, if shit goes down, I know Maggie has a room where I can hide in her house. You know, I know Tina will get me across the border. I know that Naima will get me to Turkey if I need to get that. You know what I mean? Like, just it sounds extreme, right? But those are the things that really keep me hopeful, that I know that the people in my life are going to show up. You know, Christine and Ed would be here tomorrow if I said, hey guys, there's a body, you know. So that really gives me hope to hold on to. Art, I love art. I started teaching myself how to draw, and it's so much fun. I was drawing every single day, literally every single day, until the day George Floyd got killed, and I lost my art. I haven't been able to. I think I've drawn 2 things since then, and that was recently, and trying to get it back. But I haven't been able to get back to that practice. But I'm hopeful too.
Sweet Pea, I just noticed that Lydia just mentioned Naima, and Naima put a question in the chat. So maybe Naima wants.
Go for it if you have it up.
Well, I thought maybe Naima wants to ask it directly.
Sure. All right. So don't hurt me, but really, I am feeling Shell so much, and I'm curious to know what you think she would say to you right now.
That's a great question. Actually, I have to run and get something really quick to answer it.
Typical Lydia Valentine.
Okay, never mind. But when I told, Shell is my aunt. She was like my big sister, and she passed away unexpectedly in 2016. And when I told her I was going to graduate school to pursue my writing, he sent me a mock-up of a Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which is a Pittsburgh paper, that says Lydia K. Roberts wins the Pulitzer Prize. And I know she would be so proud. I know she is so proud. And I think she would, I think like Bob Eldridge, who's a mentor of mine and has been since high school, I think when she saw the cover, she might say, what did he say? He said, "That's awfully provocative, don't you think?" And I think she might say, she might raise an eyebrow at that, but she would just be over the moon, I think. Yeah, and excited and happy.
Alec asks, what advice do you have for others who aim to use their creativity for activism?
Excellent question. Look at what other people are doing. If you feel like I have no idea what to do, Sanam Sharif is an amazing poet activist. And I think that I aspire to her greatness, to use my work to do good things in the world. I think that standing in your truth as an artist, it took me a long time to say I was a writer, really until it was after I started at Goddard. And I think if you just stand in your truth as an artist and put it out in the world for good, then even if it just touches one person, that's one person that is better for it. So I think a lot of times when we think of activism, we can get really nervous or trepidatious because it's such a big thing, right? And there's so many things in our world that need work, so it can become overwhelming. But I think if you just start small, because look at this, a year ago I would never have anticipated this, and there are all these beautiful people from all over the world here for my little poetry book.
And we have a couple of people asking what your next projects is going to be, what your next book, kind of what form, topics, and all of that you're looking at.
So my next project is called Fighting Procrastination. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing a lot of theater work. I was a dramaturg on the Unleashed Festival through Portfield Productions, which goes live tomorrow. The first play is Golden Record, is a play that is going to show. Director Gracia is here on the call. And then I'm directing a play with South Puget Sound Community College, the Call It Out Festival. I'm directing a play by Amiri Baraka called Jackpot Melting. But in terms of my own writing, I really want to get a staged a Zoom presentation or something of Aliquippa so people back home can see it. But it's weird on Zoom, you know. I really want it. I want the stage, but I'm gearing toward that. I'm writing a play about being a Black female with autism. Jack Adelson is on the call, and he's a young theater guy, director, and he's directing some short films and tapped me to do a script for that. And I have not met any of my deadlines for that. Sorry, Jack. But and then I'm also writing a play called The Virus, which is about it's kind of about now and about the coronavirus, but set 50 years after a vaccine has been found. So it's something like 2090 something. And what had been discovered right before a vaccine had been found was that the virus was created to wipe out people of color. But when the second wave of it came, which we're kind of in the middle of it now, people of color started getting a very big resistance to it. And then the numbers of people dying disproportionately to it were white. And then now we're 50 years out. And the world have been segregated. And now people are thinking about reintegrating small things, you know, small, easy topics.
So we've kind of run out of questions in chat, but I have a question. Who are some of you've answered this a little bit, but who are some of the poets that inspire you, or playwrights, or other forms of art that inspire you?
Wow. So playwrights, like, I'm such a nerd. I love Shakespeare, and I love and I think that the great thing about Shakespeare is that there is room for everyone, all races and genders and everything. And I think the Oregon Shakespeare Festival really shows that. Because I always get pushback. People are like, "Oh, another dead white guy." And that's true, but we can make it because Shakespeare's words represent people and the human condition, and we're all a part of that. Ibsen, I love Ibsen. My advisor finally told me one time, she was like, "Okay, no more Ibsen." She also told me no more August Wilson. August Wilson was a playwright from the Pittsburgh area. And so, again, I'm autistic, so I get really caught with things and just kind of stay on that track and have to be shifted. Poets, Fatima Asghar, I'm probably saying her name wrong, I'm so sorry. If They Come For Us, Hanif Abdurraqib, A Fortune For Your Disaster, Sanam Sharif, I'm waiting for the book, girl, get it out. Jack Gilbert, he's from Pittsburgh. Yeah, I have a lot of Pittsburgh pride, but he's from Pittsburgh. But he had a collection after his wife died, and it really spoke to the grief I felt in losing family members, and in processing that. You know, I go to the written word to kind of process things and understand. Yeah.
And relatedly, do you have favorite regional or local, same question, poets and artists?
Regional or local? I should have an answer to that. Christine Robbins is amazing, and she's had some pieces. I think Poetry Northwest, if I'm not wrong. Just had a piece for us, and there was a great article on another site. I'm sorry, Christine, please drop it in the chat if you can. She's wonderful, and her book has placed in different contests, and I can't wait to see it because it's just really good work. It's solid. And you know, the writers that I'm mentioning, they are like mentors to me and have shepherded my work. So it's so much better than what it could be, I think, because of that. Yeah, that's my answer to that one. I probably have more. Michael is on the Michael Hefflinger. I hope I'm saying that right. He likes pantoons as well, and he wants to write a book length pantoon, which just blows my mind. I think I don't even know what I would do if I saw a book length pantoon. I would just buy all the copies. I don't know. It just seems so amazing to me. But yeah, he's really great. Christina Butcher, yeah, really great. Out of Blue Cactus Press, right? Yeah. It's amazing to be around these people. Nicole McCartney. No, Sweet Pea, what is it?
McCarthy. Yeah.
She's more of an experimental poet, I think. Well, way more than me is what I mean, because I'm not good with experimental poetry at all, and her writing blows my mind too. Yeah, I can't wait to see her collection.
And just coincidentally, Christina, Mike, and Nicole have all worked at King's Books. Brenda asks, you spend a good part of your life teaching, but to teach is also to learn. What is one lesson you have learned from your students that has impacted you as a writer?
That every day is a new day. You know, every day you get a chance to start fresh. And I mean, a lot of, like, don't get me wrong, middle schoolers can really hold grudges for real, like nobody's business, but they are so full of grace, you know, and they give you grace as well. And for the kids who, like me, have learning differences, I have a deficient working memory. And so for real, every day is a new day because I forget stuff all the time. And like Naima would be like, no, remember that person said this mean thing to you. And I'm like, oh. She will remind me of something. But yeah, seriously, every day is a new day. And the allies can be found anywhere. You know, I will never forget a student of color at another school. We were had a conference, and we were talking about, you know, the different issues that we experience as people of color in primarily white institutions. And this student said to the teachers, you know, don't forget that we can be your support system too. You don't just have to be our support system. And that was pretty mind-blowing to me. And I do think, I mean, I have very close relationships with a lot of kids who came through my class. I mean, a lot of them are here as grown-ups and in high school and in college. And it is true that support system kind of lasts. And it goes back and forth. It's an equal relationship, you know. Yeah.
Well, that is most of our chat questions. Tina, do you have?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I want to say that I saw a question from another Nicole that says, do you have any, or maybe it's from Sasha. Do you have any ideas how we can help you further your projects? And I'm going to answer that for you really quick and be like, y'all call King's Books and order a copy of the book. That is the best thing you can do to help Lydia. And neither of these people will say it, so I'm going to say it. But I'm sure you have an answer too.
I don't have an answer. Buy the book.
So I can big sister you there.
Yeah, buy the book. That just being here, like the encouragement that I've been getting, you know, the likes on Instagram and reshares and stuff like that is just awesome. Heather Griffin, it has started doing my social media and my website, and I'm like, thank you, because she's really taken it to another level, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, just sharing things out, word of mouth. You know, Christmas is coming up or holidays are coming up. Not to, you know, promote capitalism, but, you know, buy the book and give it as a gift. Poetry is great. Yeah. And then my publisher Ben says, and then rate and review and share about it online with everyone you know. We have another event coming up November 28th, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Ben, do you want to speak to that? Ben is the head honcho over at Not a Pipe Publishing.
Sure, I can jump in. Yes, we've got an event on the 28th. We're trying to make November Thankful for Poetry Month, because going into this November, we weren't sure how much else we would have to be thankful for. So now we have some other things to be thankful for, but we were a little freaked out about what this November would hold. And now we have these 3 wonderful books, and we're feeling a little more hopeful. So we're really looking forward to that event. And so that will be on the 28th, and folks can register via the Not a Pipe Publishing website. And that'll be Lydia's got a book coming out, and then Zach Dye has got a book, and then my book is coming out. And so one of the exciting things about that is we're not only going to share some of our own poetry, but we're going to read some of each other's. So you'll get to hear the different voices. So I'm really looking forward to hearing one of my poems read by Lydia and reading one of Lydia's. So you get to hear different voices capturing these beautiful words. So that'll be a really fun event on the 28th.
All right. Tina, you're up.
Am I up? Is it my turn to do something?
Yes. Is there another question, or are we done?
I suppose it is my turn to say we're done.
All right.
Yeah, that was I just really wanted to plug that, because it really makes all the difference when you support your local independent bookstore too. Like, obviously King's has gone to some trouble to make this happen tonight and be here with us. And when you order it at King's, you know, Lydia will go down and sign it. And I don't know if you have a system set up, Sweet Pea, where people can personalize their books when they order them.
So when you order on the website, I just dropped the links again in the chat. When you order on the website, in the comments, you can say, I want this personalized to so-and-so. If you don't say anything, we'll just assume you want a signed copy. So we'll ship a signed copy. But yeah, and so again, we're doing curbside pickup and shipping. We're not open for browsing, but you can place an order, and then we'll work with Lydia to get them signed or personalized. And either you can pick them up at the store or have them shipped to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sweet Pea. Thank you, Lydia.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. And Tina has a book. It's called Rough House, and it is excellent. And it is based in Pacific Northwest here. You probably saw my promo of it on Facebook, or maybe did, but I think everybody should read it. It's a memoir, and it's great.
Thank you, my dear.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It means a heck of a lot on a Tuesday. And some of these people, Victoria and Joan and
hi, Victoria.
Host, and stayed up super late to be here, and it's so awesome. I appreciate it.
I meant to tell you, Lydia, that Victoria had put in the chat very early hello to both of us. So
I saw it. That was awesome. And I'm saving the chat so that I can go back and read everybody's beautiful comments, which is awesome.
Good night, you guys.
Right. Oh my gosh. And I almost forgot. Happy birthday to my nephew Jordan, who spent his birthday here with us. And happy birthday to my brother Lucian, who was connected and couldn't hear. So I hope that he was able to hear it on YouTube. But yeah, I love my family. So all of my favorite people were here tonight, and I'm so excited. I think my son was here, which would make it all of my favorite people. But might be -1.
It's a good problem to have, to not be able to tell because so many people are using them.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So have a good night, everybody. Family, if you want to hang back, you definitely can. I will keep the channels open. But it's good to see all of your faces. Mohammed is here. Oh my gosh, Joanna. I saw Alicia. I saw your son for a minute. Oh my gosh. People haven't seen him so long. So amazing. Andy was on? Annie and Karma. Oh my gosh, Russell. It's so amazing that all these
Jackie Looney was here too.
I saw her. I saw her.
Kathy was here. Lauren was here.
Oh,
All
I
my
see Kathy. Oh my gosh, she's so wonderful. Salvatore, it's still weird to see your name is Sal because in my mind I still call you Sam, which is I know a throwback to when you were a tiny guy. Oh my goodness, so wonderful.
You know, this is very random, but I have to say, I've
Yes.
heard so much about Sweet Pea. It is so fantastic to see Sweet Pea's face.
Hey.
Did you see Reese? She said hi.
Hey, I saw your elbow. I was like, that's Reese sitting there. I know who that is.
Hey, good. Congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh my gosh,
Oh
you're
my
so
God.
cute. You guys so big.
We love you. We'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
Bye. Bye.
So cute. Oh my god.
I wanted to say I love you too, friend. Mwah. Bye.
Bye, my dear. See you soon.
Okay, see you soon.
Oh my goodness, it's so awesome. Oh, I guess I should stop the live on YouTube because that's kind of